Hello there, here with a video, a different one. I've never done this before. I'm going to do a video of my top albums of 2023. This has been inspired by a video that Ross Goodall did. He does these every year, actually, I should say. Whereas I don't, because I don't listen to as much new music as what Ross does. His taste is more eclectic than mine, whereas I'll discover new music this year, but for me it'll be a new album from like the 60s or the 70s I've never heard before. So even though it came out in the 60s or the 70s, it's still new music to me. Anyway, after watching Ross's video, I thought, ooh, could I can't get 15 albums like he did, but could I get at least 5, 6? Turns out I can get 6 that I can think of off the top of my head. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to tell you my top 6 albums this year. Obviously, I like all these albums. 5 of these 6 I own on vinyl. 1 of them I don't, which is the one that happens to be in 6th place. I may pick it up on vinyl eventually. Most of these albums I've reviewed on the channel, so I'll link the respective reviews down below. Some of these I haven't reviewed, so they are on my to-do list, which I'll explain properly when I say which albums they are. Anyway, before I jump into the albums, I just want to talk first about this, Now and Then, which obviously is a new Beatles single that came out this year. Obviously it's not an album, so I can't put it on the proper list, but I just, huge Beatles fan. And we got a new Beatles song this year, what's been billed as the last Beatles song, so I can't not at least mention how great it is to have this. It was a #1 single, and yeah, I really like it. I do wish that the bridge, the I Don't Want to Lose You bit on the original demo had been included, but otherwise, Paul, Ringo, George I suppose as well, they've really turned this into a proper Beatles song, and yeah, it's worthy of the Beatles title. And if you haven't heard it, very surprised if you haven't, but if you haven't, give it a listen. It's a jolly good tune. And yeah, if it had been on an album, a new Beatles album, how that would be possible, I don't know, but if it had been, then that probably would have been on this list. But as it stands, as a standalone single, it's very good. So I've got that one out the way. So iPad is out, ready for this list. So 6th place, this one is the one that I don't own on vinyl, and I'm going with Cuts and Bruises by Inhaler. So from what I can remember, I think this album came out back in February, and yeah, I liked it. I'm not the most familiar with Inhaler, that, to be honest, but I know like their big tunes, like their first album, I really enjoyed some of the tunes on that. For this second album, Cuts and Bruises, I think Love Will Get You There is the best track on it. Really, really good song, that. If You're Gonna Break My Heart, that's also a great tune. I seen Inhaler live at the Blackpool Ballroom back here. Was it Blackpool Ballroom? Is that the name of the bit? My mind's gone blank now. In Blackpool, anyway, last month, November. And they were very good. The only thing was, it felt a bit like how I imagine a Beatles concert would have been in the 60s, where you have all these girls constantly screaming, and it was like, shut up. Just shut up with the fucking screaming, will you? But otherwise, the actual songs were very good. Yeah, I really like Inhaler. Like I say, I haven't got this or their debut on vinyl. I really should pick it up. But yeah, that's number 6, my 6th favourite album this year. So we're going into the top 5 now, and the rest of these I do own all of these on vinyl. And number 5, I'm going with this one, From Nothing to a Little Bit More by the Lavums. This came out in, was it February or was it March? It was February, March time. I think it was maybe March, early March. So yeah, this album from the Lavums, I'll be honest, I personally prefer their debut album to this one. But nevertheless, this is a great album through and through. That's the front cover, by the way, and that is the back cover. Hopefully you can see that good enough. For me, the 2 main singles off this album, Say My Name and Sad Face Baby, they are 2 of the best tracks on here, but I do think the closing track, Undeserving, it's like 8 minutes long, but it is a beautiful, beautiful song. Yeah, really like it. I think it's a really good album through and through. Like the first album, I think the debut is a better album, like I say, but yeah, this is still a really good follow-up. The album cover as well, I love the album cover. This is the Shap Summit, which is just up the road from where I live. So I haven't reviewed this album on the channel, but when it came out, I kept meaning to do a review. And because this is just up the road, I thought, do you know what? I could quite easily go and stand in that exact spot and, well, not stand there for half an hour on the side of the road doing a review, but at least do something for the video in that area, whether it just be the thumbnail or something or whatever. But I kept meaning to do it, and then I never got around to it, and then I got sidetracked, and then I've never done it. So, yeah, maybe I will at some point. But, yeah, I just feel it's a really good album, this one. The tunes on it as well, I seen the Lavums live at the Albert Hall in Manchester back in March. Yeah, really good. Yeah, all these songs sounded really good live. So yeah, from nothing to a little bit more, that is number 5. That's what I put at number 5 as I banged my elbow. That was very painful, gentlemen. Right, number 4. Speaking of the Lavums gig I was at in March, I'm going with an album that I didn't think at the start of this year would be on this list, because I'd never heard of this band at the start of the year. Thank God, it's The Dream Machine, which is by The Dream Machine. Now, I'll say now, I haven't reviewed this album on this channel. It's probably going to be the next video I do. It might not be to the new year now, but this will be the next review I do, because this is a great album. So when I went to see the Lavums at the Albert Hall in Manchester back in March, The Dream Machine was supporting them. Normally, I don't, you know, when I go to a gig, I go quite a lot of gigs, I'm normally going to see the support, but they normally, you know, it'll be like, they're alright, and that'll be it. I'll forget anything about them. Dream Machine, both me and my mate George, who were at the gig, they made an impact on us to the point where we were both, after that gig, like, that was a brilliant support act. And it wasn't until, so that was March time, but it wasn't until about October time when I finally listened to this album. And, you know, for months and months, George was going on, listen to Dream Machine's album, it's really good. I think it's like probably one of his most listened to albums this year, George. But for me, I was like, I'm bad for this, I'll openly admit it, George will tell you that, where he will tell me to listen to an album and it's not that I won't, it's just I forget, I get sidetracked by other things. But yeah, this one I've actually gone out my way to listen to, and I'm so pleased I have, because it is a great, great album. If you like 60s music, 60s rock and roll, you'll probably like this album. It's a really good album. For me, the standout tracks on this, there's quite a lot of them. It's Lola in the Morning, This Time Around, Away for the Summer, Angel of the North. They're the standouts for me, but I don't think there's a bad track on this album. The ones that I haven't mentioned, there's 12 tracks in total. I could easily argue that they are also just as good. So yeah, if you haven't heard this album, which I imagine probably most of you haven't, I strongly do recommend checking it out. Like I say, next video I do will be a review of this album, because I really want to talk about it properly. So yeah, 4th place, thank God it's The Dream Machine. What we up to next? Right, the top 3, for most people who know me, this probably isn't going to be a surprise, this top 3. But 3rd place, I'm going with The Ballad of Darren by Blur. So yeah, I have reviewed this album. I will link my review that I did of this album in the description below. It's a great album. It's a great Blur album. It's the only Blur album I currently own on vinyl. I do want to pick up some of their other ones, but the reason I bought this one is because I love this cover. You know, if you watch my review, I sing this cover's praises. It is my favourite album cover of this year anyway, and these frames back here, I'd love to get it framed. I mean, it'd look good in a frame, that. Just, you know, if I put it in a frame, I won't listen to it then. But yeah, this artwork, it's brilliant. Really, really good cover. But the album itself is also very good. It's pretty sad. It's pretty moody. You know, Damon is I don't know if it's been officially confirmed, but we think he's been going through a breakup this last year, which is why this album is so downbeat, why he sounds so sad, why they're all sort of breakup songs. Which is quite cool, because at the start of this year, I went through a breakup, and yeah, some of these songs on here really hit home with me, especially the ballad, the opening track, which is by far, in my opinion, the best song on this album. Yeah, starts so strong with the ballad. Great song. It's also very Bowie sounding, particularly a song like St. Charles Square. that sounds kind of reminds me a bit of It's No Game from Scary Monsters by Bowie. But yeah, one of my regrets of this year is I didn't go and see Blur live, and I wish I did, because apparently they're gone again till God knows whenever. So yeah, that's a shame. But at least we got this great album, number 3, Ballad of Darren by Blur. So that leaves 2 albums, and probably, if you know me, you'll know what these 2 albums are. But these are the 2 where I've ummed and ahed about which one to put first, which one to put second. And after thinking long and hard about it, I decided second place is Hackney Diamonds by the Rolling Stones. So, thank God, we finally got that new Stones album. They've been banging on about a new album for like the last 10 years or whatever, and it just become a bit of a drag, really, a bit of a joke, where it's like, oh, here we go, they're on about this new album, this never-ending new album. But it finally did happen this year. That new Stones album finally came along. And much to my surprise, and probably many other people, this is a very, very good album. I've reviewed this one. I'll review my Hackney Diamonds review below as well. Yeah, it's a solid album through and through, Hackney Diamonds. And for me, it's their best album since Tattoo You in 1981. This is a classic Stones album. This will be a Stones album that I'm still listening to it quite a lot these days, so that says a lot. For me, the best tracks on here are Angry, Get Close, Bite My Head Off, Mess It Up, Live By The Sword, Tell Me Straight. They're my favourites, but the tracks I haven't mentioned, they're still great tracks. I don't think there's a bad song on this album. The only one I don't really care for that much is Driving Me Too Hard. But even then, I can't come here and say that it's a bad song. Thankfully, this album has been produced by Andrew Watt, who is a young guy, but he's kicked the Stones up the arse, really, into making a truly great album. And thank God the Stones have finally abandoned Don Was, because Don Was, good God, he's been producing them since 94's Voodoo Lounge, and he's not really made anything great with them, to be honest. So it's good to finally have them working with a different producer, and one who has managed with one album to do something better than Don Was ever managed. And the Stones themselves, I mean, Mick Jagger is now 80, Keith Richards is now 80, and at the time of recording this album is back at number 1. It's Christmas number 1 album. But they all sound on great form. Mick Jagger's voice is incredible for his age. I mean, Paul McCartney, I mean this respectfully, is the biggest Paul McCartney fan. His voice has more or less gone. It's not what it used to be. And you know, Mick Jagger's voice is also not what it used to be. I'm not going to pretend it is. But it's hanging in there. It's still pretty solid. I mean, you can't listen to this album and say Mick Jagger can't sing anymore. Really good. If you haven't heard Hackney Diamonds because you think, oh, it's the Stones, they're too old, chuck that prejudgment out the window, because this is a great album and you're missing out on it. And it's my second favourite album of the year. And any other year, this would have been my favourite. So number 1. I mean, this is going to be no surprise really to anyone who knows me, who has watched this channel for a long time. It's Council Skies by Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. Yeah, I mean, this was always going to be my favourite album of the year, let's be honest. It's, yeah, it's my favourite album of the year. It's one of my favourite albums, period, now, to be honest. So, yeah. Every track on this album is great. I don't think there's one bad song on here. For me, the best track is Dead to the World. That's my favourite Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds song anyway. But every track, I'm Not Giving Up Tonight, is a fantastic opening track. Pretty Boy, which was the lead single, I didn't really care for it at the time, but after seeing it live, it's great live. I really actually do like Pretty Boy. Now, Dead to the World, like I say, great song. Best on the album by a long way. Open the Door, See What You Find is really catchy, great song. Trying to Find the World That's Been and Gone, Part 1, sad song. But a really good song. Easy Now, it's very Oasis sounding, but there's nothing wrong with that. Really good song. Council Skies, the title track, great track. There She Blows is a great track. Love Is a Rich Man, when I did the review, I said I didn't really care for that song too much. It was my least favourite on the album. It still is my least favourite on the album, but I still think it's a great song. And Think of a Number is a great closing track. And then there's the bonus tracks. Don't Stop is great. We're Gonna Get There in the End is great. His cover of Mind Games is great. It's just, yeah, it's a really good album. It's a return to form for Noel. Not that he ever went away from form, in my opinion, but this is him going more back to his traditional style of songwriting, of style of music and stuff. And it's a really good return to form. Orchestration on this album is fantastic as well. Yeah, the new tracks, I seen Noel live at Glasgow just earlier this week at the time of recording this, and of the new tracks he did off this album, all of them sounded great live, and I was just a bit sad he didn't do more of this album, to be honest. Unfortunately, this album only got to number 2. It was completely robbed of a number 1 by the Foo Fighters. They're fucking Foo Fighters of all things. I mean, it wouldn't have been bad. I mean, if it had been the Stones versus Noel, like a proper chart war or something, that'd have been pretty interesting, because that would be 2 great albums going up against each other. But the Foo Fighters are fucking shit, and they only got to number 1 because, without wishing to sound heartless, their drummer's dead. So, you know, this album, their new album, was a tribute to him or whatever. So, you know, sympathy vote. Everyone went and bought it in sympathy, which is fair enough. But this is a better album, and it was robbed of a number 1. Anyway, speaking of council skies as well, there was a documentary made by Noel's daughter, Anais, like sort of in the style of Get Back by the Beatles, where it's behind the scenes thing of the album recording from start to finish. It's not been released. I mean, I don't know why. I wish they'd hurry up and release it, because I'd really like to see it. But yeah, that is personally for me my album of the year, Council Skies. So, 2023 in terms of new albums, that's actually not a bad batch of albums, to be honest, because normally I don't really care that much for new music, as in it's just come out, because to me new music is music I discover. It doesn't matter when it came out, so I could discover an album I've never heard from the 70s or the 80s or the 50s even, and to me that's new music because I haven't heard it. Anyway, yeah, they're all great albums that I've just mentioned there. And I think next year it's going to be pretty good as well. I think we're going to get a new Blossoms album, a new Sam Fender album. God knows what else we're going to get. But yeah, that is all for now. That will probably be my last video of the year as well. So thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you very much for watching any of my videos this year. Have a very happy Christmas, folks, and a very good new year. I hope 2024 is a good one for everyone. At some point I will be reviewing the Dream Machines album. That'll be my next video I do, but probably won't be to the new year now. We shall see. But yeah, that's all. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good Christmas. Ta-ra!